at our own hands through our own incomparable stupidity and our own fallen condition. It's also possible that in going extinct, that as a racial grouping, we would have a kind of joint soul review, if you will, and go jointly conscious. If the universe smiles on us, it might give us another chance and say, you know what, you totally trashed that perfect planet that God gave you. You totally destroyed that pure, pristine, perfect planet. But we're willing to overlook that. In spite of your wickedness and destruction, we're willing to overlook that and give you another chance. Look, here are 3 brand new Earths. We're going to put 1/3 of you on each one of these and see how you do this time. Because before we gave you 1, this time we'll give you 3. And maybe if we give you 3 chances, you'll get at least one of them right. That's one possible interpretation of what I saw in my dream. And then the other issue is as far as the internet going down, if there was an extinction event or a massive uprising in human consciousness, whether in the body or out, I'm with the people who say if you get to the point where everybody, or even 50% of everybody, or even 35% of everybody is so damn telepathic that they can read everyone's mind, the internet at that point pretty much becomes a dead letter and moot. And it would be like, why drive around in a horse and buggy if you could have a Ferrari?
True, very true.
Richard, we're going to move on to the relocating questions now, and I'll start with the first one. I understand you are now living in South America. I myself left the States 20 years ago after trying very hard to wake people up, but to no avail and my great cost. My decision was then to leave, so at least to not participate in that cultural national system, and have lived off the grid and below the radar since. We all have to lose some to gain some karma-wise. What positive suggestions can you offer, and what rewards can you envision to those who have the cojones to leave their comfort zone?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I would answer by saying that actually I was no longer comfortable living in the USA and being physically present in that system either, or even supporting it by living and working there. So in a very real sense, the USA was not a comfort zone for me, if it ever was. I felt very uncomfortable for most of my life, and one of the big reasons is because I lived in such a dark place and space called the USA. In reality, now that I'm here, I feel a greater comfort level in South America. I feel an overall greater sense of personal freedom. I would say that for me, just being out of the territory, just being physically out of the territory of the USA is a relief, so much so that I do not intend to return. In fact, nothing has happened that I have seen or heard of since I've left that has persuaded me to leave South America and go back to the USA. I am mindful. I remember very clearly how fast the former USSR, that is the Soviet Union, disintegrated 2 decades ago, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the USA similarly disintegrate some yet to be determined future month or year. In my view, the whole country at this point is a failed, oppressive, repressive, exploitive system, and it continues to maintain itself only through the massive imposition of police force at home, an imperial military force abroad. I don't want to participate in that in any way, shape, or fashion. So I don't feel any pull for the place. I have, friends, associates, former neighbors, family members, etc., who live there, but I personally feel no pull for the United States of America. I find it interesting that Cliff High's webbots, at least his analyses of what his webbots do, suggest that USA model of governance may not survive much longer. And in fact, other bloated, corrupt, sprawling empires like it have bitten the dust in the past. And here I'm thinking most notably of the Roman Empire, which in its day was a vast and mighty force to reckon with, but it no longer exists. The whole thing just fell apart for a whole wide range of reasons, and I see the day coming when the same thing will happen to the USA. In fact, there are people out there right now talking about the Mayan calendar, Mitch Batros, Carl Kayaman, and others, and some other websites, and some of them are saying as soon as within the next 2 weeks, you could see heavy events that will seriously erode the power, force, and influence and ability of the USA to project its power, force, and influence over the rest of the world is going to be seriously eroded, that there are going to be major disruptive events coming for the USA. In fact, that has begun. We're seeing massive fires in Arizona and New Mexico. We're seeing huge floods already this year on the Mississippi and on the Missouri River, with a crisis in progress at nuclear power plants along the banks of the Missouri River in Nebraska and so forth. So, I share many of the same reasons you may have for leaving the USA. It took me longer to do it, though I thought about it seriously for many years. I finally left, and at a propitious moment, it appears to me.
Well, I think that's probably you came to the same conclusion after your vision quest as I did after mine. So thank you for your answer, and I'll hand it over to Unky Bubby.
Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Hi, this is Unky Bubby. Patrick had some technical difficulties, so I'll be asking the remainder of his questions for this segment.
I'm honored.
Okay, thank you. You seem to have been encouraging folks to relocate to South America, if nothing else by example. We've heard Carol Rawson's, one of Von Braun's assistants, talk about her experience opening a retreat in Ecuador, I believe, with the corruption and general harm that expatriates seem to cause to indigenous peoples and customs. Would you say your experience similarly tainted?
No, not really. For one thing, not all expatriates are the same. That said, my feeling is if anyone wants to move to another location on the planet of their own free will for valid personal reasons, including seeking a new phase in life, a new purchase in life, or simply to be free of Northern Hemisphere radioactivity that is going to be a problem from here going forward, then that's up to them. That is their choice to make. I would also add to that I have been very favorably impressed with the vast majority of the people who have written to me, especially in recent months. It's my judgment that, it's my observation, put it that way, that the people who read my writings tend to be thoughtful people. I would say more thoughtful than the general run of the population. In my case, I speak Spanish and have a degree in Latin American studies, and had previously studied, traveled, and toured in the Latin American region. So I had a sort of affinity or preparation for moving to South America before I came. I certainly, also in my case, am not harming indigenous people in South America. I would describe my life as a very ordinary life, conducting it in a very ordinary little town, quite a small town, in an equatorial third world country. I can tell you that it's a very quiet place, and if there are others who want the same thing, who want to do the same thing, who want to relocate to the Southern Hemisphere, in particular to South America, I see nothing wrong with that. I would also say that there are, to be sure, there's the so-called ugly American stereotype, and you do see those people in South America as well as in other parts of the world. I'm not encouraging anyone to go to South America or anywhere else, even to the next block, and to be rude and crude and impolite and ugly, exploitive, and exhibit that type of behavior. The people who so far have approached me about relocating to South America have, in the main, been considered responsible individuals. That's the way I have perceived them. That's the way they have presented themselves to me. And so I'm not overly concerned about it. And moreover, I'm not really encouraging one and all, everyone, to relocate to South America. For one thing, that's physically impossible. For another thing, the vast majority of people, 99% or more, simply won't do it. All I'm simply saying is that for those who are interested, able, and willing, that now is the time. Time is tolling, and big events certainly are coming up real soon in the coming weeks and months. So if someone is anticipating relocating, and in particular moving to South America, my recommendation is to hop to it, get right to it.
Makes sense and sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm going to go on to the Forteana section on here, and the next question will be,
yes.
Your website describes that you have an abiding interest in Forteana, based initially on writings of Charles Fort from 1918 through the 1930s, described as a distinctive blend of mocking humor, penetrating insight, and calculated outrageousness. This seems to capture many facets of your personality. Can you share some of your favorite Forteana thoughts or insights?
Yes, Forteana has it gripped me years ago when I stumbled across Charles Fort's books and just read at them voraciously. Of course, he wrote encyclopedically, and I haven't read every page of everything he's written, but I at one point read a lot of it, and it was fascinating to me. Absolutely, it gripped me. What I took away from it in a nutshell is that nothing is as it seems. The world is not what it seems. The galaxy is not what it seems. In terms of this planet, it's like a sort of cosmic Grand Central train station, like an oasis out on one of the galactic arms, a type of watering hole or greater galactic caravan trading center, if you will, where different races, different